The station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
Tonight on DC News Now at 10, mourning three fathers gunned down last week after a birthday party. How local families say that they're coping and speaking publicly for the very first time. And new findings into sexual harassment allegations against a top advisor to DC's mayor. What city attorneys discovered after accusations came forward. And an early morning bear sighting in Virginia, where the bear was found wandering and why our neighbors are seeing so many bears roaming the DMV.
And our weather has not been unbearable. As a matter of fact, it's been very nice this weekend, but things could change, and they will, as they usually do in the weather department. We'll talk about that in your 7-day forecast coming up. Stick around.
Scott, and thank you for joining us for DC News Now at 10. I'm Ben Dennis. We start tonight in Prince George's County, where three firefighters were hurt while putting out a fire at a two-story house earlier today. They showed up at the home on Oxon Hill shortly before 2 o'clock, saw the house engulfed in flames up and through the roof. You can see here. The three firefighters only had minor injuries. And new tonight, an investigation into a top advisor of D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser found that he sexually harassed a city employee. And that probe came after he was ousted as deputy mayor. Attorneys for the mayor's office found that John Falcicchio made sexual advances last fall to an employee who has remained anonymous. The investigations concluded that Falcicchio sent thousands of messages to that staffer, including an unwanted graphic video and sexually explicit content on Snapchat. But the findings did not conclude Falcicchio allegedly showed favoritism based on sexual attraction, or he bullied and demoted staff who turned away alleged sexual advances. We reached out to his attorney and the accuser's attorney, and we're awaiting a response. Also in the district, 3 teenagers have been arrested for allegedly committing 10 crimes across the city all early Friday. 2 15-year-olds and 1 16-year-old are in custody tonight. Metro Police say the teens reportedly stole cars, carelessly showed guns toward victims before stealing those cars, all happening between 3:10 and 6:50 in the morning in Northeast, Northwest, and Southeast. They're charged with armed carjacking, armed robbery, and more. Anyone with information is asked to call MPD. And tonight, the DMV celebrated Father's Day and their sacrifices for their own children. But for families in Annapolis rocked by last week's mass shooting, they mourned that grief after 3 fathers left far too soon. Family and friends walked through Annapolis this morning for a vigil. They met with Governor Wes Moore for about 2 hours, we're told. Participants carried pictures of the victims. Several wore T-shirts as a tribute. After walking several blocks near the Maryland State House, the families shared their thoughts about the attack for the very first time in public. Our Dave Laval was there for the emotional tribute.
My little boy is taken away from me.
Harsinia Ruiz fights back tears as she recalls her son, Mario Morales, Sunday along the Annapolis City dock. The 27-year-old is one of the 3 people shot and killed in last Sunday's mass shooting along Paddington Place.
Right now, I'm dying. I'm dying inside. But I got 2 more kids and grandkids who need me. And I gotta be strong.
Morales died during a fight with a neighbor, Charles Smith. Investigators said the argument started over a parking space. Morales and others gathered for a birthday party for his brother. Also killed, Morales' father, Nicholas.
He died a hero, protecting Mario.
Eric Velasquez is one of Nicholas's children. Velasquez said the family remains devastated by what happened, especially his younger siblings.
They love them so much, and then they keep asking, "Where's Dad? Where's Dad?" And I just don't want to tell them because I don't want them to. I don't want them to be upset.
He was my baby brother.
Mariana Segovia sobs as she remembers 25-year-old Christian Segovia, the final person killed in the attack.
I was there when he came home from the hospital. I was there when he took his first steps. I was there on his first day of school.
Mario.
Family and friends pay tribute to the victims. For some, though, it's almost too much, as they're forced to say goodbye to a loved one. In Annapolis, Dave Laval, DC News Now.
Thanks to Dave for sharing that heartbreaking story. Smith remains held without bond, and he could spend up to 40 years in prison if convicted. Developing now out of Virginia, Fairfax police say 2 dogs attacked 5 people, including 2 police officers. It happened Saturday night on Elmendorf Drive shortly before 7:30. All victims have been treated for non-life-threatening injuries, and authorities have apprehended those dogs. Also new in Fairfax County, a morning shooting in Herndon critically injured a man. Police say they arrived at Cornelia Road just before 5:30 after receiving 911 calls about a shooting. When they got there, they found a man shot in his upper body. He was rushed to a hospital and was listed in critical condition at the time. Investigators are still looking into possible suspects and motives. Developing now, at least 16 people are recovering after an MTA bus hit 2 cars and crashed into a Baltimore apartment building. Some scary images here. Officials say that 2 people suffered life-threatening injuries. The crash happened yesterday around 10 a.m., and witnesses say one of the cars ran a stoplight and then hit the bus. Residents of that apartment building have now been allowed back into their homes.
Fortunately, the status of the building is not as compromised as we may have initially thought it to be. The vertical and steel beams that support this building remain intact.
Baltimore police are still investigating what led up to the crash. We're just a day away from the Juneteenth federal holiday, but for people still heading to work or exploring the DMV, there's some travel schedule changes to your commute. Our Tosin Fakile takes a closer look tonight.
There will be several Juneteenth events happening across the DMV tomorrow. That's Monday. And in the district, some roads will be closed for the Juneteenth Music Festival. But if you're not driving and plan to hop on the Metro to go anywhere to celebrate Juneteenth or just get around, just a heads up, Metro will be operating on a different schedule. Trains will run on a Saturday schedule for tomorrow's Juneteenth holiday, and trains will operate between 5 a.m. and midnight. Now, here's how often you can expect trains on each line. You can expect the green and yellow lines to come every 8 minutes, the blue and orange lines to come every 15 minutes. The red line between Shady Grove and Silver Spring will run every 8 to 10 minutes. Now, the red line between Silver Spring and Glenmont will run every 16 minutes until 9:30 p.m. and then every 20 minutes until close. As for the silver line between Ashburn and McLean, it'll run every 8 to 10 minutes, and the silver line between Ballston and Largo every 15 minutes. Now, WMATA says Metro Bus will operate Saturday supplemental service running on a reduced schedule compared to a regular weekday, but additional options beyond a traditional weekend schedule. We're in the studio. I'm Tosin Fakile for DC News Now. Back to you.
Speaking of scheduling, Scott, folks should schedule a time to put an umbrella in their car. It could get wet later this week.
Yeah, absolutely. It starts out relatively quiet. There will be some showers around, but during the latter half of the week, things are going to pick up. Hey, if you weren't with me earlier today and the channel here, and you can see our high was 88 degrees. The average should be 86 degrees, the low 63. The average low should be 68, and the record high is 97, set back in 1944. We are expecting some rain, but in the short term, like I said, not a lot, maybe 1/3 of an inch or less across the board. As you can see, one of the forecast models showing about 1/4 of an inch at Martinsburg, a little under that at Culpeper, and less than that out towards the district and points east of there. So yes, we do need the rain because it has been abnormally dry, and we have a moderate drought situation going on throughout many of the counties throughout the area. We'll show you that full forecast in just a few minutes. But look at Oliver here, walking the door. Ben's walking Oliver this tomorrow morning, 60-degree temperatures. It'll be a nice morning, clear skies out there for both of them. But things are going to, like I said, change, and they're going to change for the weather later in the week. As a matter of fact, summertime, summer solstice kicks in at 10:57 in the morning. What's the forecast looking like for that particular day? Mostly cloudy, some spotty showers, 40% chance of that with a high temperature of about 80 degrees. All right, what about the weather headlines? Clear and comfortable night. Could reach 90 on Monday, but that would be the warmest of the days. Daily rain chances in forecast, and humidity. Oh, that awful humidity. That's coming back here as well. We'll ramp that up for the weekend and beyond, potentially into next week. Such a summer. Ben?
A sticky situation. How to get a dad joke in on Father's Day. Thank you, Scott. Millions of Americans relying on Medicaid are now manually renewing their coverage after their policies were automatically renewed during pandemic-era policies. But that change has reportedly upended coverage for thousands of Marylanders. Our Michaela Newton reports.
Applying for insurance can be tricky for many people, and this year a COVID-19 pandemic policy came to an end for people covered by Medicaid. The Maryland Department of Health are telling Marylanders who have Medicaid to check in and update their information. The state health department reported over 34,000 people were disenrolled from Medicaid. Ken Oldham, president and CEO of the United Way of Frederick County, says people that live in Alice households or households that do not earn enough to afford basic necessities are the ones most impacted.
The tragic thing is that the automatic renewals were working. We had a lot of individuals that were getting coverage that never had it before, and now thousands upon thousands of households don't have the coverage they once had.
But here's the good news. People who had Medicaid who lost their coverage have 120 days to get their insurance back. And if someone is no longer eligible, they might be able to file an appeal. In the state of Maryland, 1.8 million people are on Medicaid. And Marylanders who are no longer eligible for Medicaid coverage should visit Maryland Health Connections at the link right there on your screen for more information on the options available for low or no cost coverage. Reporting in the studio, I'm Michaela Newton for DC News Now.
Happening now in Virginia, a young black bear spotted roaming around Arlington County. The Animal Welfare League of Arlington says they've received calls about several sightings. They recommend keeping pets inside, making sure trash cans are secured, and most importantly, don't interact with the bear. They also say to contact them if you see the bear. You can call their animal control team at the number at the bottom of your screen. We'll take a closer look at the reason behind the number of bear sightings in recent weeks. You remember Franklin, spotted in D.C., later in our show.